Alrighty, the first boss we are looking at today is the physical Super Saiyan Kid Trunks. I cannot believe how difficult these Blue Zone fights are. I was not expecting this to be difficult at all. I mean, you're talking about like next generation Saiyans fight with Trunks, Goten, and Gohan. That did not scream difficult to me, especially because last year we had a lot of hybrid Saiyans fights, like with especially the youth and stuff like that, and they were nowhere near hard at all. And when they released these fights, even if they were hard, no one expected this level of difficulty. Special battles and clones fight and all that stuff were difficult, but this was a whole nother level. This Kid Trunks is releasing a set 16.8 mil super turn 1, 6 mil normals, and his actions are scripted. It goes 1, 2, 3, and then 2 supers. So normal, 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 2 supers, and then it's just nasty. They can super twice with almost a 17 million attack stat. Now here are some things that does help. One, you can lower his attack. He also loses 20% attack for each turn that is passed. So he can lose up to 100%, he can go down to 8 million, and he's no longer that threatening. But 16 mil supers is pretty much wiping out any boss in the game. Luckily for units like G4, he has a chance for a guaranteed counter against the Ki Blast Super. If not, he at least has the 70% chance to Ki Blast Super counter. Physical G4, of course, has that counter. The Blues dodge, like there is ways to get around this. Omega debuffs, right? There are like these new GDC units can struggle in these fights, but a lot of them do have the advantage to be able to handle these crazy attacks still. But this boss is absolutely insane that they could just turn 1, just snipe any unit that you have, and there's like nothing you can do about it. Mine is praying for a counter or a dodge, otherwise you just die and you gotta restart the whole fight again. I cannot believe this boss is that hard, and the next one is going to be the perfect cooperation Goten and Trunks fight where they go into Gotenks. This fight I did not think was going to be that hard, but it is pretty crazy how difficult this boss actually is, because not only is he, having 1 billion HP and 7 million defense, he also has 20% damage reduction. You're like, wait, that's not high at all. Except for the fact that then after the next 3 turns, he gets up to another 75% damage reduction. So Gotenks has 95% damage reduction. So if you're not killing him fast enough, he is a brick wall at the end of the fight while he's also doing, what is that? Let's see, 9 mil, like 12 mil crits. Is that what, like 11 or 12 mil crits? And yeah, it's insane because that's like what Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta is doing, but with crits. Like, that's insane how much damage that is going to be doing to your units. I mean, I saw my Blues take that super post-super with like, and this wasn't even fully built up Gotenks, by the way, and they took a 1 million damage super from him. So it was crazy how strong this guy actually can be due to his crit, his high amount of damage, and he's a brick wall later in fights due to his high damage reduction and HP. It's nowhere near as bad as fighting, of course, the Blue Zone fights, in my opinion, but it is, I would say, not nearly as bad, but it is up there, but not as toxic as like the Trunks or as like the Gohan, who can just one-shot you turn 1 and you gotta come back to the loading screen. This Gotenks kind of can be like that, but later in the fight more so than earlier on. But the good thing is rotations should be set by this point. And you also can attack and defense debuff the Gotenks. Alright, we had to include then the Goku Black Zamasu special battle. Now, a lot of people are looking at this fight now and are like, wow, this fight is easy because of how bad the Blue Zone fights are. But yeah, I mean, this is still a difficult fight. Of course, you have Rose launching at 8 mil supers turn 1 against super class enemies. You have Zamasu coming out there with a 4.8 mil super, and then against super class, it's like a 6 mil super, and locking and damage and AoEs and just nastiness that these two could do together. It is truly one of the scariest fights that has released this celebration. Nowhere near as bad as what we've experienced now, but these two were definitely some difficult bosses. Especially because, again, most of the units that you brought into this fight were just a lot of slot 2 units. you know, luckily after the end of GDC, we've had enough units that can handle these fights now with a breeze. But dude, right when they introduced these two, it was not easy because we just did not have the weaponry to be able to gun down these fights because we just weren't ready for, you know, 6 to 8 mil supers turn 1. Our units were not built for that. That meta did not exist before. And now we've not only done the power creep once, we've done 2 power creeps in the same celebration, which is absurd, by the way. I actually cannot believe that they even did that, and it really makes me wonder where they're going to go with this meta. But yeah, I mean, they force you to attack Zamasu first here, unless you want to fight fully built up Rose, who's doing 24 mil supers. I guess like Goku Black supers maxed out is like a joke, right? Like, oh, this is a gimmick fight, right? This guy, like, no boss is ever going to launch 24 mil supers. Like, that's ridiculous. And then they release these Gohan and Trunks fights who are basically doing 24 mil supers, which is crazy. They're not actually doing 24 mil, but yeah. We have another special battle boss on this list, and that boss is going to be Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. He no longer looks as scary as some of these other bosses we had earlier in this list, but he is still pretty terrifying. Once he's fully built up, which can happen as soon as turn 4, he can have 11 mil supers being dished out, and that's just scary. And it's pretty funny because I remember talking about these special battle fights, you know, throughout the celebration, and just talking about these as benchmarks for these newer, you know, units or whatever, right? People are like, these are gimmick fights, you know, these fights don't count, these are not real fights, you know. And sure, if you want to count the special battle fights as gimmick fights, whatever. Blue Zone fights are never gimmick fights, and they're harder than the special battle fights. So I don't really want to hear it anymore. We have to use these as benchmarks, no matter how ridiculous the fights are, no matter how insane they are. They're a benchmark. There's a reason they're out. There's a reason why they give stones. There's a reason why there's missions with categories to beat these fights with, because they're meant to be cleared with new units, with strong units. And for some reason they think that our units can handle 16 mil supers, and I don't know why, but that's just the case. But yeah, I mean, this Gogeta can be pretty scary. He also has a ton of HP, 850 million HP. His defense isn't super high, which does help out, but 68% damage reduction, can attack 10 times in a turn. Again, he hits really hard. He does double super, and he is scripted. So that is good, right? The first 3 turns, he attacks super-wise in slot 2 and 3, and then from turn 4, and I believe onward, it is slot 1 and slot 3. So he's always supering slot 3. He's always going after your floaters. But early on, he's not targeting slot 1, maybe just make it a little easier, because if he super slot 1 and did all of this, he might have been too scary, maybe. I don't really know what the philosophy behind it is, but this boss is really, really strong. Not as strong, again, as the other ones we mentioned on this list, but he is a pretty tough boss, especially because, again, he builds so quickly that you don't even have your transformations out, your fusions out, by the time he's at 11 mil supers, and he can catch people slacking. Alright, next we're going to look at the other Blue Zone fight, and, you know, there's a debate whether this one's harder or the the Trunks one is harder. I would personally say the Gohan one is a little harder because you can't debuff him, but let's talk about the Gohan real quick, right? He also doubles supers, and he can get up to what I believe I've calculated to be a 21 million super if he gets attacked 10 times. The good thing is he only does have 350,000 HP, but the issue does become that if you build up his defense all the way, we can get up to 11 million defense, so that can be some difficulties there for sure. He's also scripted. He also does double super. He has normal, and then 2 supers. So yeah, it can get pretty nasty for how strong this guy can be. Double supering with 21 million supers. The good thing is he does have low health, like I mentioned earlier, with only 350 million. But again, this boss is tough because not only is the Gohan Super Saiyan stage really tough when he's fully built up, but the first stage is Gohan launching out 13 mil supers, just frame 1. It's always the first attack in the slot, right? Like it's the slot 1 super with 13 mil, and it's just ridiculous. It ends fights before they even start. But I really just want to look at the Super Saiyan Gohan because of how powerful he can be. But of course, you can get around it with, like, you know, using Gogeta's active turn with some other little buffs that allow you to blitz this Gohan. Like, you can blitz him, which does allow him to be a little easy if you can cheese the boss. But the first stage, especially the base Gohan, is very tough due to the opening rotation super, which can just destroy the run. Alright, next we got Clone Gogeta. It's not really the fact that this fight is necessarily hard, it's just the clone Gogeta can be difficult once you hit him enough, right? He does have 1.2 billion HP. You know, he has 60% damage reduction. His attack stat is not high to start. Of course, the more you attack him, it builds up a lot quicker, and eventually he's doing about 10 mil supers towards the end of these fights. And of course, if you get the wrong clone Gogeta, you lose. But this specific clone Gogeta is just difficult more so because, again, he has a ton of HP. He can hit you pretty hard late into the fights. Nowhere near as tough as anyone I mentioned earlier, but if we're comparing this boss to bosses we've seen during the 10th anniversary, this clone Gogeta is stronger than all of them, right? So we have to consider all of these facts when it comes to which boss is harder than who. I mean, Global Dokkan Campaign has released every single boss that is harder than in the 10th anniversary. Now, it doesn't mean it's more quality or a better meta. I'm just saying these bosses are much more difficult than the ones we saw during the 10th anniversary. I do like some of the hard content that was released during the celebration. I will say I'm not a fan of the Blue Zone fights. I do like Special Battle. I do like GT Boss Rush. I like the Clone fight. I like a lot of these things. Heck, I don't even mind the Tag Gotenks fight at all. That fight, I think, is good enough to be considered here, but once you start bringing in units that can shoot, like, just destroy you turn one, and that's it, and he runs over, it's just not my cup of tea. And I know Rose can do that, right? But there's a temp limit in Blue Zone. There's not a temp limit against Rose and Zamasu, so, you know, pick your poison there, of course, but again, this boss can be difficult towards the end of fights due to how hard he can hit, and of course the biggest gimmick being which one actually is the boss. A lot of the times it's simple, a lot of times it's not, and you gotta find the minute details to be able to find which Gogeta is the real one. Alright, the final boss I want to look at today is the LR Fizz Omega Shenron. I do think I could have put the Goten fight on this list, but to me, it just was a little easier than some of these other things. I don't think Omega is necessarily hard either, right? I really don't. But the Goten fight, I literally beat in like 3 minutes with GT Heroes, because if you can just blitz through the HP bar of that boss, you just never have to deal with the hard-hitting attacks he does by turn 2 or 3. And again, that's one thing I will say that all of these bosses, the new 3 Blue Zone bosses have, is they have this new structure of defense doesn't matter, you just gotta kill us fast enough. And that's the first time in a long time where I will say for once, damage actually might matter, which is insane, by the way. But really the point I'm trying to get across, though, is this Omega Shenron, right? The great thing about this fight is not its difficulty, or more so what I mean by that is it's not that it hits hard, right? This boss does not hit hard at all. He's the weakest of any of the bosses we've gotten during this campaign. He only hits for, I think, 6.4. Like, he does not hit hard at all. But his gimmick is he locks you, and then he hits you before you super. So he always super slot 1, he always supers before you super, and it's a 6.4 mil super. To me, I feel like I could get around that pretty easily if you know how locking works in this game and how slot 3 units play a role into that and whatever that looks like. But I mean, you can get caught. I'm not going to say you can't, and that can be annoying because you can get locked turn 1 like with a unit you don't want in slot 1. It's a guaranteed super in that slot. So I can understand the difficulties of that for sure, especially late in fights, because again, he keeps locking your unit in slot 1. Usually your strongest damage dealer. Well, he doesn't lock you slot 1, but he can lock you slot 2 with one of your better units, and he can put your strongest unit in slot 1 to help cover, and then they get stunned so they can't do damage. You know, there's a lot of annoying mechanics that he has that I think it gives him a little bit of leverage over the Goten boss, because again, you can just simply blitz Goten and not have to worry about his stats and whatever. But what don't you guys think in the comments below? What you guys think? What do you guys think is the hardest boss in the game currently? And I am interested to hear what you guys think. Do you guys think the part 3 specifically, right, like the difference in, well, not in part 3, do you think this Global Dokkan campaign as a whole has created enough power creep to equal what 7th anniversary was, or do you think that the 7th anniversary still had a ledge over it? I don't know. Right now, personally, I might say they're about equal. I'm not going to say one's over another, but I really do think this has the same feel what 7th anniversary had, which was what they called the hard reset. Because outside of these 4 Global Dokkan campaign units, or 5, I guess, the 5 of them, I don't know if I would use any other unit in these fights and be able to complete it, right? You could try to run Vegito and all of that, but I just don't know if all of them are relevant. And even Rose, for example, can struggle in these fights. And Omega, if you can't debuff, will struggle in these fights. And if the Blues can't dodge, they will die in these fights. And Gogeta, if you if you're not careful, he can get killed by normals in these fights. These guys are some scary bosses that, again, I just don't know if there's a lot of units that can get around this minus Boo and Tech 17 and 18. But that's just how powerful these new Blue Zone bosses are, and how everything was already trending during the special battles and all that stuff. But again, I want to hear your opinion in the comments below. The link to my first playlist is in the description. That is going to be to all of my voice content, and the second one's going to be to all my Dokkan Battle content, videos in general, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.
排除してやる。